So unfortunately, the moment has finally come. Micahel Saylor has sold some Bitcoin. Yes, that's right. So many people have speculated that Micahel Saylor is feeling the pressure with Bitcoin being down so much, and he may be margin called and may be forced to sell Bitcoin. So that moment has finally come. However, however, it's not what you think. So this was just released today with the SEC. This is a Form 8K by Microstrategy showing some of the moves Microstrategy has made recently. And this does show that Microstrategy did sell Bitcoin, I believe, for the first time ever in its history. Bitcoin bull Micahel Saylor, oh no, he decided to sell Bitcoin, right? But it's not for the purpose you think. It's not because he was forced to. Okay, it wasn't because he was margin called or anything like that. Actually, he was taking advantage of tax harvesting. I told you guys, end of the year, a lot of people are taking advantage of tax harvesting, and that's exactly what MicroStrategy and Micahel Saylor did. So if you scroll down, you look through here, it says during a period between November 1st and December 21st, MicroStrategy acquired about 2,395 Bitcoin for about 42.8 million in cash, average price 17,871. Okay, so unfortunately, he again overpaid. Every time MicroStrategy and Micahel Saylor buys, seems like it's towards some kind of local top and it goes down, right? But then here's the interesting thing. December 22nd, MicroStrategy sold 704 Bitcoin for about 11.8 million at an average price of about 16,776, right? So obviously he's selling at a loss, right? But then 2 days later, he decided to buy back 810 more Bitcoin for 13.6 million in cash at the average price of 16,845. So in total, MicroStrategy did add about 2,500 Bitcoins, right? Adding to their original total of 130,000 Bitcoin. So right now, as it stands, MicroStrategy has 132,000 Bitcoins, 132,500 Bitcoins. Okay, that is a whole lot. And the aggregate price of all the Bitcoin, 4.03 billion with a B. But unfortunately, the average cost is at $30,397. So even though Saylor did buy the very first Bitcoins for MicroStrategy when it was below 10,000, unfortunately, most of the purchases he made was towards the top. So even with these dollar cost averaging, his average price is still quite high, above $30,000. And unfortunately, that means he has an unrealized loss of 1.8 billion. So it makes me wonder why Micahel Saylor, if he's taking advantage of tax harvesting, why not sell a bit more and buy back, right? He has 132,500 Bitcoins. Why not just sell all of it and buy right back, right? Maybe there's some kind of tax code or something that prevents that since since this is a corporation. I don't know. But if he's taking advantage, then why not take a little bit more? Why only just a small amount, right? There was a Bitcoin miner that was going to go into bankruptcy, but now they don't have to anymore because Mike Novagratz is bailing them out. Argo got $100 million injection from Mike Novagratz, so that's good. 65 million towards their facility and 35 million in loan. So right now there are a lot of people that are wondering if the miners are going to make it. Of course, some of the smaller ones probably struggling because Bitcoin's price is low, but the bigger miners, they're doing just fine. They have plenty of money. They have saved up plenty of money over the years. They have plenty of Bitcoin. If they needed to, they could sell, but they're not. So the bigger miners continue to mine while the smaller miners struggle. But now we're seeing some of the big guys coming in and rescuing them. So that overall is pretty positive. And if you look at this, the exchange flow from the miners basically at all-time low, right? So there's this notion that a lot of miners are selling. No, the smaller miners may be, but the larger miners are not selling off right now. You can see this is at a 5-year low. So very, very, very little Bitcoin from the miners are going into the exchanges. So most Bitcoin is still being held by long-term holders, and that is what we want to see. Now, it's not just the long-term holders. Of course, retail investors have been buying and accumulating and holding, right? You can see, according to this, Bitcoin Shrimps have accumulated 60,000 Bitcoins in the last 30 days. 60,000, right? And you can see that graph just skyrocket. So there are definitely a lot of people taking advantage right now, buying Bitcoin and other crypto while it's low. And according to Glassnode, now 17% of the entire supply is being held by retail investors. That's a good amount and it's growing, but predominantly Bitcoin is being held by the big whales, the long-term holders, and the miners. Retail investors are still coming in, and that number is growing by leaps and bounds. So that is also positive. These are all positive things for Bitcoin, things that you should look forward to as you continue to hodl, because just imagine as the supply diminishes with each and every halving event, right? As the holders increase, as the institutional adoption and retail adoption increases, right? Bitcoin is going to go higher. It's going to become the scarcest asset that we have today and tomorrow. And then lastly, just a few things. I did see this. Kraken is pulling out of Japan, right? Probably a lot of scrutiny in Japan right now because of the FTX collapse. So I'm thinking this has something to do with it. But with Kraken Out of Japan, you only got one major exchange left, and that's Binance, right? No, they have a few others, but overall, I think there's a lot of scrutiny in a lot of countries right now due to what happened with FTX, unfortunately. And speaking of FTX, the U.S. Justice Department is finally going to look at that mysterious hack that happened, right? The 600 something million that just disappeared. Supposedly, according to SBF, that someone, stole the private key and that's it, right? But now that is being investigated and they are looking into it. So is it SBF or Gary or one of the guys themselves or someone else? I guess we will see. We will see soon.